This is the community of Trenchtown in Kingston, Jamaica, the place immortalized by music legend Bob Marley. It's in a tenement yard here that he grew up in the 1950s and 60s under social conditions that were less than ideal. 50 years later, some things have changed, but the community remains impoverished and opportunities few. But there is a gem in Trenchtown that gives many children hope. The Trenchtown Reading Center, founded in December 1992, lies neatly beside what's now called Culture Yard and Bob Marley's early home. Boys and girls of all ages come here after school every single day and escape into fantasies on pages and pages of books.
So let's went to the bathroom and paint. Worms coming out of his hair and crawling on its cheeks, and snakes coming out of his mouth. Then he went downstairs, walked up behind his father, said, "Boom."
The center was founded through a collaboration between the community and this woman, Rosalind Ellison, a school teacher from Canada who wandered into Trenchtown in 1992. A friend from the community had left her there. But rather than cower in fear, as many strangers may do when entering a downtown Kingston community, Rosalind struck up a conversation with the elders.
So we were talking about the situation. Things were pretty bad in '92. And so I was saying to the Don at the time, well, just give me a room and a sink and an older person who's interested in books. So then we started talking more and more about what it would be. And what we decided it would be is that we were not just going to make worker bees. What we wanted to do was have a really good collection of books to introduce the children and the people of the community to real history, relevant materials, and materials they wouldn't otherwise get, and to give them the skills and the experience and the self-confidence to do whatever they wanted to do. Because knowledge is power. That's where we came from. And we knew if we waited to raise money, etc., the mission would be compromised and it would probably never happen.
An idea was born. It wasn't long before this idea would turn into reality with the full cooperation of the Marley family.
This original building used to be the music rehearsal room. So they said, no, this would be time to do something else. So we went downtown. At that time, people had to sort of lie in the back of the bottom of the car because you're going through different neighborhoods. Now it's completely different, but then it was rough times. And they called me 5 weeks later and they said, we're ready. So I came down with 5 boxes of books and we built a stage, and Cedella Marley was here and Massive Dread at the time was there, and we had a big concert and we opened up. And over the years, Ziggy Soul used to run it, and over the years we, had like 50, 60 kids come every day. And at that time it was primarily a library. We had some classes, but it was primarily a library. And Ziggy taught music, and we had spelling bees, and we closed in the courtyard, and we had a craft where they made quilts.
And so activities began at the Trenchtown Reading Center. Children came in numbers, and after a few years, they expanded with donations from the World Bank and Member of Parliament Omar Davies. One of the children who came to the Reading Center when it first opened its doors was Tamik Walsh. A picture of her as a child is on the center's brochure. Now, 19 years later, she and her mother run the center and library, taking turns helping the children and reading to them. Today's story and lesson is about Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin went with his father once to buy shoes. The clerk told him to wait in the back of the store. Martin's father said no, he would buy shoes in front of the store, or not at all. Then he took Martin's hand and walked out of the store. So we all realized that prejudice was everywhere, especially in Atlanta, Georgia, where the signs were whites only. You remember?
Yes, yes.
Right. And he and his father went to the store and they told him, right, just because he was black, they were 8 prejudice. Good, very good. I was born and raised over there across the road. And for 19 years we lived there, and this center has been open for 19 years. So you could imagine how long I've been over here. I was one of the first children that was over here. As you could see, I am on the brochure for this library, yes. And what we do mainly is just to come giving back my service, being thankful that I was raised in this library, could read, express myself, being the person I am today. So I'm just here giving back my service.
Tamik, or Auntie Sweets as the children call her, says the center gave her confidence to express herself as a child and introduced a whole new world to her through books. The literature here is for all ages, from young to old. As the sign says, everyone is welcome. Children are introduced to Black and African history early. Storybooks include children's classics, but also books about famous Black leaders and events. Roslyn says there's a special effort to ensure the children are able to see other children who look like themselves, depicted in the stories. For adults, there's the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, books about U.S. President Barack Obama, former Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie, Jamaican folklorist Louise Bennett, and of course, Bob Marley. The hope is to appeal to parents, some of whom are illiterate.
We have problems with that with the parents. So we had one of our friends here that came a couple times to do literacy class with our parents, and many parents turned out, and it was very good. It was very good with them, teaching how they could read, and some of them come and explain and say that, well, maybe the reason why they're doing it is because of their children, and the reason why they send the children here and to school is because they don't want their child to end up like the way they did.
Some of the parents even learn from their children. The boys and girls here seem happy to learn and share their knowledge and stories.
When I come to the reading center, them teach you to read better. When I can't read good, and sometimes I come do homework.
What's your favorite story?
Boo.
What's that about?
A boy and his painted face when was trick-or-treated, when was Halloween, and him go to people's door and knock and scare people and make people scare. And then him go in their house and take candies.
And what's your favorite story?
The tigers came to tea.
What's that one about?
The story is about that the tiger was hungry, and the tiger met a girl, and he came for lunch. And he eat everything in the fridge.
According to Roslyn, many children come here after school and stay as late as 7:30 in the evening, running home for supper in between. It's clear the children like it here.
It's really important for kids to feel valued. So they come in here and they feel valued. That's the number one thing. They feel like they have value. You know, we have a social agenda, so people try to treat each other with kindness. You know, if they have arguments, which kids do, it's like using your words and not being mean and all of those things and learning to work together, so they feel valued. When we read to them, we have fantastic books, and a lot of them have a teaching story to them, a teaching element, but we ask neutral questioning. And kids all over the world, they want to give you the answer that you want. But what we want is we want kids to give their opinions. We want to build their self-confidence and their self-esteem. So when they first come here and you say, how did the mosquito get the buzz? And you get to a certain part in the story and say, well, what do you think will happen next? Dead, no hands, until they come here for a while. And then they just have a million ideas. You just say, well, we'll see.
We read books. We not only read to call words or to pronounce words, but we read and get into that book. We make that book come alive. When we talk about the books, we go into that book, we imagine that the story could take a different turn, or maybe the story, we play about that book, we give the books different ending, or maybe we could just change up the words now and then, so that when our children, we talk about story time, our children get so excited about books. They are excited about books here at the Reading Center.
It's a strategy that seems to be working, but the center needs funding to continue the good work in Trenchtown and maybe even expand to other communities. It takes about $20,000 to run the center annually. That includes salaries for Sweets, her mother and the small staff, utility bills, buying new books and maintaining the grounds. Right now, the center runs off funds solicited through fundraisers by Roslyn in Canada, as well as occasional donations from businesses in Jamaica. You can contact them through their website www.trenchtownreadingcenter.com.